So you just got your new Tesla and now you're wondering, what does this setting do? What does that setting do? What are the best settings? How do I set this thing up? How should I set my car up to have the best driving experience? It's been almost 2 years since my last setup video and quite a lot has changed. This is gonna be a long one, so throw this video up in your Tesla so you can follow along, and let's get started. So first up, the home screen. This is the new UI looking thing. It's kind of just an expanded view. All you got to do is just tap to bring up the actual maps, or you can slide, or there's even an app icon here called nav that will do the same thing. Top right is going to be the direction that your maps face. So if it's an in with an arrow pointing up, then that's going to be north up. Most people don't drive like this. Most maps on like your phone and whatnot are not configured like this. So you're actually going to want to tap it and it's going to put the vehicle up, which is how I drive. Most people I know drive like this. If you are navigating somewhere, you can tap again, which will then show you the current leg that you're on, assuming you don't have to stop and charge. If you do have to stop and charge and you tap one more time, then it'll show your trip in its entirety with your like current leg highlighted. World maps for satellite view, and then the little charging icon will bring up chargers, superchargers if you have the 3 lightning bolts selected, or if you have the 1 lightning bolt, it will show slower like level 2 chargers around you. A recent update now lets you see not only the temperature outside, but also the conditions. Right there, you'll see a little sun, so it's sunny outside, but you can even go further, tap it, and that will bring up a much more detailed forecast. So chance of rain, humidity, hourly, it's actually pretty cool. Down at the bottom, you have a row of apps. This row that appears down here can be customized. All you gotta do is click and hold. You'll see your app drawer come up with all of your apps. And from there, you can kind of just click and drag just like on your phone. You need to at least have 1 recent app. So it's not like you can have all of these be your apps. I wish you could. I don't know why Tesla forces you to have a recent app, but it is what it is. You'll notice that your seat ventilation or heat over here actually has its own spots, and you can't bring anything else into this spot. Like nothing else, not even like steering wheel heat will go into that spot. So seat only right there. And if someone was in the passenger seat, then there'd be one for the right side as well. For the My Apps, I recommend your streaming app of choice. I have Apple Music and Audible down here. Dashcam, because if this is in your little bar icon down here, all you gotta do is just tap it while driving and it will save the last 10 minutes to your USB drive without you having to go and hitting other buttons to try to save. And then I have my phone and my energy graph. Now you may also notice that I don't have a lot of the other apps that you may have here, and you may be wondering, how do you declutter your app drawer? It's really easy. All you gotta do is scroll over to your music card here, click on the little settings icon, and then it will normally start with tone. Just go down to sources, and then here you can see I have a ton of sources turned off. So I actually need to turn off YouTube Music as well. I don't use that, so anything I don't use gets turned off. And now when we go back to our app drawer, you'll see YouTube Music is no longer there. You can't remove other apps, only like source apps, but I mean, there's a ton of source apps, so it'll declutter a lot. And lastly, before we dive into the settings and start changing a bunch of things, go ahead and make sure that you are actually in your profile. Make sure you're not an easy entry or another profile. Make sure you're in your profile, so as you're changing settings, it will save to your profile. So first up is going to be controls. This is more so quick controls because just about everything that's in or on this page can be found elsewhere within the settings. This is just what Tesla thinks that you'll need in a pinch. For example, headlights and wipers, these can actually be controlled via your wheel, and it's a little bit more intuitive to do it via your wheel than trying to do it on your screen. So for example, all you gotta do is just press your headlight button, and now it'll bring up your light settings down here to where you can quickly change them off, parking, on, auto, and you'll see it updates real time on the screen right here. Wipers as well, so just press the wipers button, and you can actually scroll up and down on the left scroll wheel to adjust your wiper speed without ever having to go in here and touch anything on the screen. Also pressing and holding, you'll see it'll start filling up that button right there. And if I was to fully fill that button up, then or that circle up, then it would spray the wiper fluid everywhere. And of course I don't want to do that because this isn't the site for that type of content. Getting on down to dynamics, which used to be called pedals and steering. First up, you have acceleration. For me, I have 3 different settings. You may only have 2. It just depends on which car you're in. So I have chill, standard, and insane. Chill is going to cut your power output in half. It's going to smooth out your torque curve. Some people will say it's a little bit better on your tires. I personally only ever use chill during the winter, when I'm like having a little bit of slippage coming from like a standstill when the roads are really bad. That's about the only time I use chill. I've never used standard. I've actually been meaning to take my race box to go out and measure like how much faster standard is versus chill, and then versus insane, just because I haven't seen anyone else talk about that. And then insane mode, if you are in a new Model 3 Performance, is not only going to give you the most acceleration, the most power output, it's also going to keep the battery more optimized for the performance conditions. Ride and handling is a Model 3 Performance only thing as of right now. I assume the Model Y Performance, whenever that gets updated, will have it as well. To be honest, I hope all Model Ys have them, because it's great. Standard really does smoothen up the ride a ton, but you might not have this. If you do want to roll sport, you'll just feel more of the road, more of the bumps. It'll feel more like the older Model 3 Performances. Steering weight has also been renamed. It used to be comfort, standard, and sport. A lot of people didn't really know what that meant. It's just really the amount of slack that the wheel has. Track mode, we're not really going to talk about. Apply brakes when regenerative braking is limited. This is really nice, especially for when it's really cold outside. You may not have full regen. The brakes will essentially kick in to mimic regen. Yeah, I leave this on. I think it's really good. I think it's great. Also, if you ever charge up to 100%, it'll also be engaged. Auto shift out of park is a new thing for the stockless cars. This is not auto shift 2.0 that's on the Model S and X. That's a little bit different. But this is great. I really do love this. It gets it right like 99% of the time, but you always gotta be like aware just in case. I literally just get in, seat belt on, foot on brake, go. It's great. Now, before we get into charging, I want to give a quick update for test stuff. We have now opened up back orders for our upcoming mid-October restock. It's crazy that we're already at the end of September. So if you want to get your hands on our newly updated, very popular all-weather floor mats, our screen protectors that now come with an updated alignment tool for a perfect installation, and other items like our RGB dash strips for the old 3 and current Y to get that new 3 feeling, you can. I'll have everything linked down below, and you can use code YouTube, all caps, for 10% off your entire order. Everything that's back ordered ships mid-October. Next up is going to be charging, which is actually a usable screen now. I don't know if anyone remembers a few years back when you just never wanted to adjust your charging limit here because you couldn't get anything accurate or precise, but now you can. So you can adjust your charge limit here. You can also adjust your amps here, which I wouldn't recommend touching unless you know you need to adjust it. It's kind of one of those things where if you know, you know. If not, then just leave it with whatever the car decides. Next up is going to be Autopilot, which is a big one because there's like 3 different whole settings that you can go through. It's kind of like everything that's in, traffic aware cruise control is in auto steer, and everything that's in auto steer is in full self-driving. So I'm just going to go over the full self-driving one, and then you can just apply that in case you don't have full self-driving. But I feel like everyone has full self-driving nowadays, or at least they have experience with it because it's like $99 now. It's actually pretty good. So first up, we're going to have Autopilot activation. You can't change this if you're in full self-driving. If you're in auto steer, you can, and then like single clicks will be put you in traffic aware cruise control. Double clicks can put you in auto steer, but then if you enable single click, then braking out won't put you in traffic aware cruise control. I've made videos on all this before that you can check out. But yeah, so for this, it just defaults to single click. You can't do anything with it. Full self-driving profile, so chill, average, or assertive. I personally use and recommend assertive just because I feel it's the most human-like. This car is overly cautious, so the assertive profile makes it not as overly cautious. Lane change notification, vibrate. The wheel will vibrate when it's about to make a lane change. Minimal lane change for current drive. This can actually be accessed by the right scroll wheel. Pushing left or right will bring up, well, actually, if you're in your settings and it adjusts settings, but if you come out here and we do this, yeah, right here you can do minimal lane changes. I really don't ever put this on unless I'm just trying to cruise in like the right lane and I really don't care for the car to try to go around or anything like that. So expanded full self-driving visualization. All this does is that whenever you enable FSD, you know, it does the whole screen this right here. Automatic set speed offset, I've actually found to be kind of annoying, and I've been really tempted to turn it off, but it's not like so annoying that it's like I'm immediately turning it off. So I'm hoping that Tesla kind of just improves it. So I'm leaving it on for right now. Essentially what this will do is that it will just kind of go whatever speed based on traffic. The problem, it'll just randomly slow down, like not phantom braking. No, it'll just kind of slowly slow down. Like I'll be doing 55, I'll turn it on, it'll go 55, and then after about 30 seconds, it'll be doing 53. And then 30 more seconds, it'll be doing like 49. And there's like no traffic in front of me or anything like that. It'll just randomly slow down. If you turn it off though, then you have access to set your speed, which you cannot have anything else except a percentage, I believe. Like you can't go to fixed. Even if you were to go up here to auto steer, scroll back down, and then put it to something like fixed, let's say 6 over, and then go back to full self-driving. Yes, agree, come down here. As you can see, it defaulted back to percentage, which when I didn't use automatic set speed offset, I actually would use percentage, and I'd use about a +10, because using fixed +10, you know, if you're in a school zone, 35 and a 25, that's like, you probably don't want to be doing that. But like on the interstate, 80 and a 70, that's not too bad. But if you're on percentage, then, you know, if you're going through a 25 on a school zone, you're actually doing like 28. That's not bad. And then also on the interstate, you're doing 70. Now you're doing 77. So it just makes a lot more sense to run percentage. I recommend percentage. Next up is speed limit warning, which a lot of people don't actually know what this does. I've discussed it here on the channel before. So if you watch the channel, then you probably do know what it does. But you know, the little speed limit icon that appears right here when you're driving tells you the speed limit. If you have it set to display, what will happen is that, assuming you have it set to, let's say, just relative 0, right? And you're going 55 and it's a 55. As soon as you hit 56, the speed limit icon will brighten up, and that's all it does. And if you go under, it'll darken back down. Let's say you had it set to a +10 and you're in a 55. Well, whenever you start going 66, it will then brighten up. Chime, same thing, except instead of it doing that, the car will literally just beep at you. It's super annoying. You can also just run an absolute. Like if you just always want it to be bright, you could set the lowest of 20 miles per hour. And then as long as you're going over 20, it'll just stay lit up. Yeah, I run relative plus 10 miles per hour. Forward collision warning, I recommend setting this to early. Lane departure avoidance is exactly what it sounds like. If you have it off, nothing would happen. If you have it on warning and you go to kind of drift out of your lane, the car will beep at you. If you have it on assist, which is what I recommend, then the car will actually kind of bring you back into your lane. Emergency lane departure avoidance is essentially like the last one, except it'll like scream at you, like the screen will like light up and everything, like the steering wheel, or at least I believe that's what it should do. Automatic emergency braking, you can't even change it with autopilot on, plus why would you want to turn it off? Obstacle aware acceleration, turn this on. What this should do, I'm not going to test it, is that let's say you're sitting in front of a wall, you're in drive, and then you accidentally just nail the accelerator to the floor. I don't know, you try to reach for something in the back seat, your leg extends, whatever it might be. This should not allow your car to move. It should be like, oh, wait a second, did you actually mean to do that? Same thing if you're in traffic and you accidentally pin the accelerator, it should stop the car from moving. Next up is locks. This is just where you add your phone key, key cards, if you have third-party key access like I do. Child lock, you can both left, right, turn those on. You can turn on window lock. Walk away door lock, you can exclude home, which is what I've recently done simply because these cars have ultra wideband support, and it's very, very accurate. Like, it's scary, like to the point to where if I just even walk around the car a little bit too far, like let's say I'm walking from the driver to the passenger to get something out, sometimes it'll just lock on me. So I finally just turned it off. It's been great. I mean, it's good that the ultra wideband makes the phone key a lot better and a lot, better with like proximity, but it's a little too good. Driver door unlock mode. What this is if you just want the driver door to unlock when you approach the car instead of all the doors unlocking. If you do run this and you need to unlock all the doors, just get in and hold down the door open button. It'll unlock the rest of the doors. Next up is hands-free trunk. As you can see, I actually have this off now. Apparently they updated this to where it's not as sensitive. I just haven't turned it on. It was cool at first, then I realized that I was never in a position where I couldn't just take my hand and reach down and open the trunk. But more importantly, it was just way too sensitive. Like anytime I would even slightly approach the rear of the car with my phone in my pocket, it would start beeping. And while it was really good at you just kind of backing up and it immediately stopping, it still kind of got annoying. So I turned it off. Unlock on park, self-explanatory. I like this. You may want to turn this off. Car left open notifications, I do have turned on, and I have both doors and windows. Of course, I want to be notified if, you know, my windows or doors are open. Lock confirmation sound, I actually do have on, but I have a custom one within the settings. So here it shows it grayed out, but you probably do want to have that turned on. Close windows on lock. This like went away for a little while and then came back. I really like it. I have it turned on. And then finally, the MyQ connected garage. I had this, got rid of it, got it back. It's all right. It's still pretty buggy, especially the auto closing, but you can adjust the amount of feet away you have to be for it to auto open. Auto closing you can't, but it's 30 feet. Auto fold mirrors, which is, you can actually have them fold based on location in another part of the setting, so I don't really know what that's about. And then chime on for the, you know, auto opening and closing, which I do recommend you turn on in case you like pull out of your garage and then you got to pull back in for some reason. The garage door may, if auto close actually works, start closing, so you definitely want to know that so you don't like pull out and then back in and then be halfway under and your garage door close on you. Yeah, it's a subscription. I don't recommend signing up for it unless they're running like one of their deals or sales, which I think they run like once a year, then you get like a little bit off. I don't know. I also was like in the middle of doing a sponsorship with them and they like didn't want me to say anything bad about it at all. So I essentially told them just to go f themselves. Next up is going to be the lights, which like I discussed, you can hit your light button and then kind of control it down here as well. So you really don't need to use that. Auto turn signals, 100% keep these on. These are great. Adaptive headlights. This isn't matrix headlights. This is curves with curves in the road, but apparently it's only if your high beams are on, and I've literally never seen it work, but I keep it on anyway. Headlights after exit, I do keep on just because if my headlights are on, then normally it's dark and I like to be able to see my surroundings. So I keep them on, they turn off after about 30 seconds. Accent lights, you know, you can just kind of change the RGB strip along the car. As you can see, it's kind of changing right there. These are the built-in ones, the preset ones, and then here are the saved colors that you can do. You also have a brightness slider here. Thank you, Tesla. The brightness of your lights used to be linked to your screen brightness, which at night, as you know, your screen turns all the way down so it doesn't blind you. And at that point, you couldn't even see your nice little accent lights. So I'm glad to see that we have a brightness slider. And then finally, dome lights, footwell lights. These dome lights are so bright. In fact, I've had them on this whole time. Look at that. Like, do you see that? Do you see how bright these lights are? And keep in mind, I have dark tint and there's a massive ring light shining in out there. And that's still how much light that these dome lights are putting off. I mean, like, look at that. It puts out a ton of light. In fact, I wish that they gave the dome lights a brightness slider because like I said, I have very dark tint, and at night, whenever I get in my car and these come on, everyone can see in. Display is up next. I normally do keep mine in auto with auto brightness. That's what I recommend. I just have mine set to dark and auto off just for this video. Automatic blind spot cameras, 100% turn this on. This is great. Whenever you turn on your turn signal, it'll show you your repeater camera on that side, which is fantastic. And you can also move it around if you want to have it in a different position. I like to keep mine right here. The left scroll wheel function, essentially you just hold it down. It lets you do whatever you set here, or you can have it ask each time. I have mine set to dome lights because like I said, the dome lights are extremely bright, so I like to turn them off immediately. I kind of swap back and forth between that and glove box. And then the rest of this is just whatever you have preference on. Getting into trips, you have 4 different settings. The first 2 you can't change, current drive and since last charge. The last 2 you can change. When you get the car, assuming you buy new, these will come as trip A and trip B. What I recommend doing is that before you even pull out of the delivery center, go down to trip B, rename it to lifetime. Don't reset it because it should have the first few miles, whatever your car is delivered with on it, and then just never reset it, right? So as you can see here, this has my entire odometer, 4,032 miles. And this is the total amount of energy my car has pulled out, my average watt hours per mile. It's just something cool that you get to look at throughout the life of your car. And you can also add them to the cards down here. So if you scroll over, you'll see current drive, since last charge, real range, which was like the range test I did recently, and then lifetime. Next up, navigation, and first is navigation voice. This is really only useful if it's muted, because if you just want to adjust it and it's not muted, like adjust the volume, whenever the nav is speaking, just scroll up and down on your left scroll wheel and that'll adjust it. Use HOV lanes I have on, it kind of just depends. Automatic navigation, yes, because that's great for predicting whether you want to go home or to work, or like whatever's in your calendar. And while I already know how to get to home from work and to work from home, if I want to use full self-driving, it's nice that it automatically navigates there, so all I gotta do is just turn it on. Trip planner will just add supercharger stops, of course, keep that on. Online routing, yes. Speed camera chime, which I've had on the whole time. I didn't even actually know I had it on until recently, but it's never chimed to me ever. Plus my radar detector has a database as well with like speed cameras that's always getting updated. And then finally, avoid tolls and ferries. If that's applicable to you, then change them. Schedule. This has been one of the best updates I've seen because it's so nice. The preconditioning is cool, whatever, but it's really the charge setting, because now you can fully control when the car starts charging, stops charging, and it's great if you have a like on-peak, off-peak electricity plan. And if you're new to Tesla and thinking, they didn't have this? No, they didn't. They had some like weird thing where it was like, when do you want the car to finish charging by? But there was never no like hard stop, hard start. It was really annoying. I eventually got a third-party app to handle it all. It was Teslafy. And it still does it just because I've never bothered setting this up. But I know this works because I've seen other people raving about it. It's great. So like for me, my on-peak starts at 2 p.m. and ends at 6 p.m. So the other 20 hours of the day, I can use as much electricity for like 6 cents a kilowatt hour. It's super cheap. So I would just set that here just to not charge during those times. And if you're someone that has multiple on peaks throughout the day, so like let's say you have like a 4-hour increment here, and then later in the day you have another 4-hour increment, you can do multiple start and stop schedules via this. So yeah, like for example, if I wanted it to start at 12 a.m. and then stop charging at 7 a.m. and I want to do that every single day of the week, and create, and it'll let you know if you're like overlapping. But then if I had another one that I wanted to do at, let's say 3 p.m. and then end by 6 p.m. to do that, and let's say it's only on Monday, right? You can just create as many as you want, or at least a few. But for preconditioning, self-explanatory. All it does is that it just gets your cabin ready and your battery warm in case it's colder outside at whatever time you tell it to be ready by, in case you leave it like a very consistent time every morning for work or something. Safety is up next, where you got Sentry Mode. Yes, 100%, turn that on. I exclude home just so it doesn't drain battery. Sentry Mode will use about 1% an hour, and I already have a camera in my garage, but you can also exclude work and favorites. Camera-based detection, you do want this as well, just because now it'll actually use the cameras for like motion around the car. I believe before it was like sound and like vibration. Disable Sentry sounds. I've had Sentry Mode go off on me a ton of times, and I've never ever heard it make a sound ever, but I don't disable it. View live cameras via the mobile app. This does require premium connectivity to use, and it just lets you see the car via your app in case you're like parked in a kind of a weird spot. I think we've all been there. We've wanted to check on our cars. And you can also look at the B-pillar cameras now, which is cool. Dash cam I have set to auto, and that's just because I used to have it set to manual, and then I realized that you can do both at the same time as long as you have the dash cam down here. I mean, you can also go into the quick controls and press it as well, which will make it record the last 10 minutes. But I have it set to auto just in case something does happen. In like worst case scenario, I'm not responsive and it's able to automatically do it. It's kind of one of those like better safe than sorry, you know, and you can still do the manual recording. Automatic blind spot camera, which we already discussed in a different portion. I don't know why they have two here. Blind spot collision warning chime. Of course, you want to have that on. If you're about to merge into someone, it'll let you know. Blind spot warning light, I'm pretty sure is the red portion that appears on your blind spot camera when there's someone in your blind spot. But it may also control the LEDs and the speakers that light up as well. I'm not too sure. It does one or the other, but I would recommend just keeping it on. Allow mobile access, of course you want that. Pin to drive and glove box pin, I don't currently have on. I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little lazy ever since I got the car, and it's so nice just to get in the car, put the seatbelt on, foot on the brake, and then just drive it. Auto shifts out of park, it's great. But I really do need to turn that back on. I recommend it just because it's a lot easier to swipe someone's phone, especially if they know what type of car you have, run out, quickly hop in and drive away, versus, you know, your keys, which normally kind of just stay in your pocket. Your phone is always in your hand. You're picking it up, putting it down off tables, whatever it might be. So I do recommend running it. Speed limit mode, exactly what it sounds like. Cabin overheat protection is next. Off is, well, of course, off. No AC will just crack the windows. And then on will turn on the AC once it goes over whatever limit here you have set. I have it set to off just because I have XPEL XR Plus tint, so it's ceramic, it keeps a lot of heat out, not to mention the preconditioning via the app is really good. Like I can be coming out of a grocery store that's not even 50 feet away from my car, turn it on, and by the time I get to my car, it's preconditioned. So I've just never had a need to run this. Automatic 911 call, of course, I would just leave this on. Security alarm, you can't even turn off. Park assist chimes are just those little beeps you'll hear as you get close to stuff around the car. Joe mode, I actually turned on during a road trip and I haven't turned it off. I love it so much. If you don't know the backstory behind this or the lore, someone named Joe was like tweeting at Elon on Twitter that the car's beeps kept waking his kid up. So they introduced this, and it actually kind of tells you that you know, for Joe's kids. I really like it. And then finally, parking brake and power off. It's not actually a parking brake. It's just reapplying the brakes. They're used to, back when we had stocks, you could actually use the parking brake on the end of the stock in case like your brakes failed. Then you could use the rear brakes because it would like activate like some like mechanical thing. It's like a whole thing. You'd have to kind of just go look at it. I'd be here all day trying to explain it. But yeah, so you can like foot on the brake here, and then you can push that, and you'll see right there parking brake. In reality, what I just heard was the brakes just re-engaging. So they just disengage, re-engage. That's really all it was doing. Getting into service, there's really not much here. You can kind of just see your current PSI, which you can also see via this card right here at the end. Remember, it does take about a quarter mile for these to update once you start driving. You'll see right here the recommended PSI for your front and rear. And don't forget, that's cold. Your tire service mileage, assuming that you properly reset that every time you have, you know, like your wheels rotated or tire swapped out. But besides that, you can access your owner's manual. Wiper service mode is something that I actually do come in here quite often to use, because if you hit that, you can actually see right there, my wipers popped up, and now you can like lift them up, clean under them. It's really nice. You just touch it, they go back down. The only setting to change under the software is going to be your software update preferences. Go ahead and set this to advanced. If you want the possibility of getting the new updates sooner, or just getting more updates. I've seen people say that it works, it doesn't work. I don't really know. Sometimes I'll go months without an update, and then sometimes I'll get like 6 updates in like 2 weeks. So it kind of just depends. I don't know. I have it set to advanced just because I want to get the new updates sooner. So if you do, then set it to advanced. Wi-Fi is self-explanatory. Bluetooth, this is where you would kind of set up your phone. You would set it as a priority device, sync your messages and everything like that. However, there's a new setting here that actually reduces fan speed during phone calls. So as long as the climate is set to auto, if you're the type of person who likes to roll around with it on high, full blast, and you take a call, the person on the other end is going to be able to hear your AC blasting. However, what will happen is that it will automatically kind of just turn it down so they can no longer hear it, or just reduce it so they don't hear it as loudly. I actually been meaning to turn that on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on now. And then finally, upgrades, which there's no real settings in here to change. However, if you go into your mobile app, you can toggle a setting to turn the option to do in-car upgrades off, which I would probably recommend if you have small children that like to play with the screen, because, well, they may spend a few $100 on your credit card. But that's all the settings, what they do, and what I would recommend. Of course, excluding the super self-explanatory things like what language to use, or parental controls, which is a new one, but you can figure that out on your own. You don't need my help. Don't forget, you also have a service mode you can use to check things like battery health, see alerts that don't appear in the notifications tab, and reinstall software in case you're having problems. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are new here and want to see more Tesla related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.